Okay, we're back, continuing after figuring out the frequency of the categorical variables that we had. In this case, it's the TV show, favorite TV show. So we calculated the frequency and summed up all the frequencies. And remember, we were supposed to have 20 data points, but we came up to 19 because I had one unanswered. Now what I want to do is show you how to use a formula and create your own formula in Microsoft Excel. And also be able to sort of index it to specific cells and their locations and stuff like that. So, sounds fancy. It's not really. What we do is we just create our own. And the easiest way to create our own is, okay, I know what relative frequency is. I know the relative frequency is the frequency, in this case 3, the frequency of How I Met Your Mother, divided by the total, 19. Okay? And you can go ahead and do that. And in this case, it actually thinks that you're putting in a particular a date, 3/13, probably March 13th. But if you go equals, it'll actually do calculations for you. So 3 divided by 19, and it'll go, you can press enter, and there, it'll go ahead and does it. That's what the relative frequency is. You know, the frequency of How I Met Your Mother, 3 divided by the total, 19, to get our frequency of 0.15, almost 0.16, okay? And it's a percentage, of course, of a whole. All right, so 15.7% or 15.8% or 0.157 out of 1. But I don't want to be able to just use it as a calculator because I could just use a calculator. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to use this to its maximum potential. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go equals. And instead of putting in 3 divided by 19, which is what I want to do, once I put in the equals, if I click on this cell, it's going to put in 3. Now it doesn't put in 3, it puts in K2. K2, of course, is the particular cell, right, that we're dealing with. K2, K2. All right. But what I can do then is divide. Now, divide is a slash. Okay, that's how you do division in Microsoft Excel. Okay, because there's no division sign on your keyboard. And then I want to divide it by this 19. Okay, so I can then go down to 19. Instead of putting in the number 19, I can go click it and put K8. And that's what it is, K8. Okay, and then when I press enter, I'll get the same result, 0.157, okay, or 1.558 roughly. But there's a couple of problems with that, okay, but there's also a couple of benefits of doing that. If I do it as a formula, if I do it as this K2 divided by K8, this cell divided by this cell, what I can do, which is really powerful in Excel, is I can replicate that formula, which means I can take that formula in here, that I put in here, and if I go, notice how the plus sign is fat here. Okay, it's a fat plus sign. But then when I go close to this little green box that's stuck in the corner of the cell for relative frequency with a 0.157895 is, it goes skinny on me. Skinny plus. If I left click there and I drag it, in all of these cells that I drag it to, whether it's this way or whether it's this way, it will replicate that formula. Okay, but it doesn't just replicate the formula, it actually slides down and uses the next value down and the next value down, the next value down. And I'll show you what that looks like. So I'll slide down to that. Now we're going to get a bunch of nonsense, and I have to show you how to deal with this. But if we go up to the Family Guy, okay, if you remember for How I Met Your Mother, the frequency of 3, it was K2 divided by K8. K2 divided by K8. And you can even see it in here, although it's kind of small, K2 divided by K8. Now, when I go down here, it slides. So it goes K3 divided by K9. And that's what it'll do. It'll slide. So if you go down one more to the Big Bang Theory sort of section, it'll do K4, which you want it to do, but divided by K10. Now K9, 8 is here, K9 is here, and K10 is here. Notice there's nothing there. So what have I done? I've divided by 0. So there's a couple of things we need to perfect when we do this. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to delete what's in all these cells. And I'm going to fix this formula. You see, because in this formula, I want to do, I'm just going to delete it again and go ahead and do it from scratch, equals. I want to do this value divided by this value. And I want the first value, the K2, for this next one down here, and down here, and down here. I want it to slide down. I want this one to be K3, this one to be K4, this one to be K5, this one to be K6. But this K8, I want to stay the same. If I want the K8 to stay the same, I have to do something. It's called absolute cell referencing. So if you go a little further along, and if you put dollar signs in front of it, don't know why they picked dollar signs. There's probably a computer programming reason for that. If you put a dollar sign in front of the K, it's going to leave the K the same. If you put a dollar sign in front of the 8, it's going to leave the 8 the same. Notice how I didn't put a dollar sign in front of the K and the 2. Okay? The K and the 2 I want to change, but the K and the 8 I don't want to change. I want to change what is divided, but I don't want to change what I'm dividing by. So if I press enter on that, I'm still going to get the same result, but the beauty is when I slide it all the way down, boom, it creates all of the calculations that I'm looking for. More importantly, it does the appropriate calculation. So if you look in this cell, although you have to look over here, it's K3 divided by K8, which is what I want. I want the frequency divided by the total. For here, it's K4 divided by K8. I want the frequency K4 divided by the total, K8. And so that's what I get all the way along. So that's how you keep a number in a formula you create the same. You use these dollar signs in what's called absolute cell referencing. Fancy technique, it just means it keeps it the same. I like the idea that a dollar sign kind of looks like an S. So S, the same. Same as, whatever. Okay? Whatever, however it works for you. Now, I know that I did this right because if I go ahead and I sum this up, then it should add up to 1. Always. And this keeps all the decimal places, so it should be a nice perfect 1. So how do I sum again? If you remember from last video, I go up to fx all the way over here. I type in sum and search for sum, and of course sum appears right away. I insert the function, and then it says, well, what do you want me to sum? I want to sum all of this. And in fact, it already assumes it's going to sum what's above it, kind of like old-fashioned addition. Okay? And then once you go from there, you go done, boom, there it is, and it adds up to 1. And all relative frequencies should sum up to 1. Okay, so hopefully that kind of makes sense to you, and it's our very first formula that we put into ourselves. So remember, a summary to put in a formula, equal sign, and you can click on cells and select those cells. Okay, division is a little slash sign. And last but not least, if we want to keep a value the same, we use dollar signs in front of the letter and the number. If we want to let a value slide or change or move, okay, as we move up and down or side to side, in this case up and down, then we don't put the dollar signs and we let it do its thing, okay? And we'll go ahead and we'll do another formula like that in a little bit, so don't worry about it. Okay, so hopefully that's something to go by. Soon we're going to be doing bar graphs for both the frequency and for the relative frequency.